Hello, everyone.
Welcome back
to the Makers Gonna Learn YouTube channel. We are so excited to be crafting with you.
Listen, this is a project that I feel like I have been able to do in my sleep. It was one of those that I've done it so many times.
Yes.
I was like, psh, that's gonna be a breeze. And I tried different aspects. Y'all, I have some really good information to bring you today.
Ooh,
let me just say that.
This project, if you've made a doormat, me and Lauren could make a regular doormat in our sleep, but if you're having issues or anything like that, you're going to want to come to the show and stick around because it is going to be action-packed with the tips, the tricks, if it's not working, what's going wrong. Lauren's going to expose a lot of that today, which is incredible. But
are you ready to make a doormat with us today? If you are ready, drop me an emoji. Let me know you are here, ready to get started, because y'all, we've got a lot. We have a lot, and I have a lot of different techniques that I'm going to be telling you, a lot of different fails that I had. Let me just tell you, I had so many fails with this project, and I don't know why, because like I said, this is something that I feel like I could do in my sleep. I have done 2 or 3 of these on the show. So these are super easy, but if you're not doing the right techniques, can be hard and frustrating. So definitely stick with me today. And I will help walk you through all of the different do's and don'ts, what to avoid, things like that. So let's just go ahead. Let me move some of this stuff out of the way, and I'm going to hold this one up. This one was one that I felt like I wanted to make a mat. So I started off wanting to make a mat that was colorful.
yeah.
So colorful mats were really what I was going for. And as you can see, this one is pretty summery, very colorful. I really love that. So when I started, I thought, y'all, we can use spray paint. Great concept. Instead of using Flex Seal, let's use spray paint, because we have such a wide variety of colors when it comes to spray paint, and then seal it with a clear Flex Seal.
My question
sounds like a great idea, right?
Why wouldn't you use spray paint? Because Flex Seal has been so faithful for us, for years.
So let's talk about why you wouldn't use spray paint. So Flex Seal we've talked about this, it is in a spray paint can, but you can also purchase it and do the dab method. But it's a heavy like rubbery paint. So really and truly, it lays on your stencil and gives you very nice crisp lines. The difference, spray paint is not as heavy. It's not as heavy of a material. So what I discovered and what happened was the spray paint kind of gave me a fuzzy look. Like the lines were not crisp. What do you?
Okay, so before we invented this, we didn't invent it, before we learned about the freezer paper technique, I worked for a paint company, and a lot of times with spray paint, when you put a stencil down, and I was pinning it down and stuff like that, you would put a coat of spray paint and you'd be like, where's the coat?
Because it's so thin, it soaks in to your mat.
And you still see your bristles. They're not a different color. So yes, I just agree. It's a struggle.
Yes. So that is where I was like, okay, we'll just do spray paint. That's where I ran into issues. Somebody also said Flex Seal comes in so many colors now. Yeah, it does. However, I'm going to be the first to tell you, not all colors are created equal when it comes to Flex Seal. I got the white because I thought if this black I know how well black works on a doormat. The white on that doormat, oh my gosh, would be so beautiful. It's gonna pop. No.
Wow.
For some reason, the white, and you all can see, I'll hold this up, or actually you can go overhead. I don't know, you can see that there is a little bit of a white outline around the letters here. That's because the white didn't work and I had to go over with black. So yes, Erica agrees. The white Flex Seal is horrible. It is the worst. Like it's just not, it's not for me. And I tried it. I have used the yellow as well. The yellow, it did okay. It's not that it's bad, but for some reason, it's just not near as crisp. But that's why we're gonna talk about a couple different methods. So I tried the spray paint, did not work. Tried the color, tried the white Flex Seal, wasn't a fan. Also, did you guys know that freezer paper can go bad?
Wow.
I mean, I did not, because we have had freezer paper. We have freezer paper out there. I've used it so many times. I used it back around Halloween to do a mat. And it stuck perfectly. But when I was creating this mat, guys, I was ironing it down, had a heat setting of 3. I even had to go back and watch my own video to make sure I was doing it properly.
No way.
Doing it all the same. I knew it was correct, and it was not sticking. So I was trying to figure out, well, do I use permanent vinyl? Like, what's gonna work best for this? Because now my freezer paper, I thought for sure that the mats, something had changed with the mats. They had done some kind of chemical, put something on it. That's why it's not sticking. Really thought that it was something to do with the mat. Had Sadie run out and get a new pack of freezer paper, tore off a piece, put it on the mat, heated it up, didn't move.
No way.
Didn't move.
So y'all heard it here first. Freezer paper goes bad.
Yes, freezer paper can go bad. I mean, as far as, I don't know about going bad if you're using it for its intended purposes, but for our purposes of heating it up and getting it to stick to our doormats, yes, for some reason, like, I think it's something to do with the plastic probably, doesn't stick as well. So somebody asked, is there a specific name for these doormats? These doormats are called COIR, C-O-I-R doormats. You can get them at Hobby Lobby, but I also found that you can get the exact same one, as I'm measuring, making sure, exact same one from Walmart for like, I think it was like $5 or $6. Hobby Lobby is like 10 or more. Wow. 10 if you catch it on sale, on the week that it's on sale. Yes, Brenda, it was the exact same brand of freezer paper both times. It was the Reynolds Kitchen freezer paper, and it was the one we had was so old that the packaging had changed. So that's how I was like, okay. We keep it, humidity-wise, we keep it it had been kept in a plastic container, like closed up, sealed. So I don't think that that would have done something. But either way, if it's not sticking, that could be your issue. Because I did see somebody in our Facebook group that they said they were having issues with it sticking, so it wasn't working. Definitely go buy a new pack of freezer paper and see if that works before you try something different, okay? So what we are going to do today, I'm going to teach you how to measure your doormat, put it in Cricut, we're gonna cut a saying or some words, and actually I'm gonna put that on our blank doormat, and then I'm going to teach you how I found best to add color to your doormat. So we are also going to be using acrylic paints, and this is I guess the old way of how you all used to do it. And you can still do it this way, but we are going to be sealing that with the clear Flex Seal, so you get the best of both worlds. So you're gonna learn how to use the black Flex Seal with ironing our words down, and then I have some little accents, some leaves, palm leaves, that we're gonna iron on the other mat that I had already started, and I'm going to show you the best practices for using acrylic paint and putting that on your doormat as well. Okay? Are you all ready to jump into the project? So let's go ahead and head over to Cricut Design Space. Now, one thing that I do know we're gonna have to do before I get started is we're gonna have to hop over to Maker's Gonna Learn website. We are here in the font section. The font that I'm gonna be using today is one of our newer fonts. It is not downloaded on this computer, so you all, if we have anyone here that doesn't know how to download a font from the Maker's Gonna Learn website, I'm gonna teach you how to do that right now. Now, one thing I do wanna say, we're using a Mac. It's very similar between Mac and Windows to download. So I'm gonna be using the font Fabulosity. We are going to download, all you have to do is click this little arrow that's pointing down right here. It is going to pull up in your downloads as a zip file. We're gonna open up that zip file. It's going to pull up here as a OTF. We're going to double click that and then install the font. And then it will pop in your font book. We call it the font, Mac calls it a font book. If you have Windows, it's called the character map. That's just where you can go and see all of the fonts that you have on your computer. So now that we have that downloaded, we're gonna go back over to Cricut Design Space, and actually before we even open up the canvas, I'm just going to come up here to the view and we're gonna reload, because if you are downloading a font, you do have to reload Cricut Design Space. Although it's on your computer, it's not in Cricut Design Space unless you reload it. So we're going to reload Cricut Design Space, and that will pull in that new font that we downloaded onto our computer. So now I'm gonna head over to my stuff.
And don't forget, y'all, you get 1,000 fonts when you join Maker's Learn today. So you have a ton to choose from, all with commercial use license, where you can make money from your crafting with that commercial license, which is amazing.
Yes. So as you all can see here, I already have what saying I'm putting on this mat here, but I'm gonna show you how we're gonna do this. So I'm actually just gonna delete this square out so that, and you know what, let's just delete this out. And we're gonna start from the beginning, how we're going to do this, how we're going to arrange everything. So first thing you need to do is we're gonna come over here to the shapes, and I'm going to grab a square, and I'm going to come up here to our size, and we're gonna unlock that. Now, we are working, and the tag on our doormat tells us the dimensions, so we're working with an 18 by 30 inch doormat. So I'm going to type that in, 30 by 18. It's a 30-inch width and an 18-inch height. That's gonna be your standard size doormat. And then I'm just gonna come up here and change the color. We're just gonna change it to brown because that's the color of our doormat. Now, what you're gonna do is you are going to grab the text, whatever text you plan on using. I said we were using Fabulosity, so we're gonna come over here to our system fonts. And first of all, let me talk about this, because in all honesty, I'm gonna tell on myself right here. I did not know that you could do this until me and Alicia did a live, I think it might have been last week, maybe week before last, must have been, I think it was last week, where she just did a very beginner tour of Cricut Design Space, all of this stuff. Let's go back to Cricut Design Space. Did you all know that you can move your font thing around wherever you want it? So if you want it to pull up over here out of the way, you can do that. Used to, it would pull up right here, and that's where it would stay. And a lot of times when you bring text in, it's up here in the top left-hand corner. So it would cover up your text.
Okay, I don't think you're telling on yourself. I think this is new.
Okay, well, you can move it, and every time you pull up a text and go to your fonts, it pulls up wherever the last place you left it.
That's cool.
And I personally I'm obsessed with that, because that way I can have it over here and it's out of the way, and I can actually see the difference. Like I can click on this one. For example, let's pull this down and make it bigger. So now I can, once again, pulls up over here where I left it. I can, in my system fonts, now I can click on, okay, that one doesn't look right. No, not for me. You know, and you can test out all of these different fonts without it going away. So we're going to search the Fabulosity. Here it is. So everybody's saying this is new. They had no idea. So at least, you know,
Yeah.
I'm not the only one. So I have my text here. Now all you're going to do is you're going to type in what you want on your saying. Vibing and thriving is just that is what this year is going to be for me.
Yes. And
one other thing that I think I did with this is because I wanted a little bit more room between the word vibing and thriving. So I have 2 spaces here, and then I'm going to do 2 spaces here, and then thriving.
Love it.
There we go. You can do like the letter and line spacing, or you could like individually place them if you want to do that. That's completely up to you. One thing that I want to make sure you all know and understand is when we are working with these mats, we do have to keep this. We're working with a 12 by 24 inch mat, so we have to size our text down so it is less than 24 inches, okay? So 23.95 I think will work. I might have to go a little smaller than that. But all I'm going to do, I'm going to size that down so that it does fit within a 12 by 20 or on a 12 by 24 inch mat. And then now I'm going to go ahead, we're going to go ahead and jump into how I decided where I wanted or what sizes or what kind of leaves I wanted. And that way we can just go ahead and kind of design that here so that you can see how I did that. So if you wanted to do color and you want to put leaves or palm leaves or smiley faces, hearts, Christmas trees,
Right.
Literally whatever you want, we're going to go back over to Maker's Gonna Learn, and we're going to head over to our cut files. Now, there are so many different things that you can choose from. So I'm just going to type in leaves. And that is going to pull up all of these different leaves. Here we have a philodendron. The ones that I used, first of all, I just realized we're not signed in. Let's get signed in really quick.
Look how easy it is to sign in.
Look how easy it is. And then we just go back to cut files.
Amazing.
So cut files was not loading for some reason. Here we go. Let's type in leaves again. And then I will show you exactly which one that I used for this. I actually used a pattern. So, and I'll show you how I separated those out. We are going to be using the slice function. I know Tanner said at one point, like, actually these tropical leaves would work really well too.
Love it.
But let me show you exactly which one I used, but I think we're going to come back and we're going to download this tropical leaf pattern. But just so you all have the exact one, let me see if I can find it. That's not it either. Anyway, we'll go back because these will be perfect. So let's just go back to page 3, and we're going to download these tropical leaves. Same as with a font, we're just going to open up that zip file, make sure it unzips. It does have the PNG and the SVG. We're going to come back over to Cricut Design Space. We're going to hit upload. We're going to upload the image. I'm going to pull that down and then take that SVG, drag it and drop it here, and then pull Cricut back up, upload that, and done. You are ready to go.
Amazing.
So now that we have this, I am going to, what you can do, okay? So there's a couple ways you can do this. If you wanted to bring in, kind of the old way that we would do it is we would bring in a shape, and then what you can do is choose that shape. You can, let's say we wanted just this leaf right here. Let's unlock this shape so that we can try to get it where it's not covering up anything else. And we could just rotate it make sure that it covers that up. And then what you can do is take your shape that you just chose and your tropical leaves cut file, and then you can slice that out. That's kind of, I don't want to call it the old way of doing things.
Right.
But that's one way that you can do that, and you can slice. Another way that I have found sometimes is a little faster and works a little better is if you will just come up here and duplicate. So if we had 5 different leaves in this cut file, we would duplicate it 4 other times. And what you can do is on each one, we're going to go down here to contour, and then we're just going to contour out the leaves that we don't want. So now we have this bottom one. So we're going to come over here, duplicate this one again, contour it. We have that bottom one. We don't need those 2. Now we have both of those. We'll duplicate this one more time. Then we're going to contour this one. We need that middle one. And then finally, the last one, we need this one in the top right corner, contour, and boom. You have them all separate.
Love it.
Now, some files you can ungroup and they're all separate, but if you can't, contouring or slicing them out really is the best way to go. So now that we have all of those separate, what we're going to do now is you're just going to arrange these leaves however you want them on your mat. So if you want one to be a little bit bigger, you want to turn it this way, then we might grab this guy, put him up here in the corner, turn him, make it a little bit bigger. Now, one thing that I want to make sure you guys know and understand is it's okay if I have, let's zoom in. For what I'm going to show you, it's okay if you have a leaf that sits off the edge of this mat. That's not going to be a problem, because the hack that I'm going to show you when it comes to, creating a pattern, we're going to cut these all, like they're all going to be their own individual leaf, and we're going to come back. You can come back to your design and kind of see where you place them and go from there. It's a lot easier doing that than trying to cut it off when you have something that's larger than mat. So our doormat is 18 by 30. So it's kind of hard to separate, okay, I need from here over grouped together, here down grouped together, which you can do, but this kind of gives you more freedom to move it around if you decide later on, hey, that's not for me, like I think I want to use it over here. Okay?
So you're saying not to follow through with this?
What do you mean?
Do you need to?
So before what we would do is we would let's just say we placed these 3 and that's what we wanted. We would come through and...
So you're going to manually place these after?
Yes.
So we don't have to worry too much?
No.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to show you.
This is part of the hack.
This is part of the hack.
So everybody that's wanting to make sure that they're following, like, dotting their T's.
Crossing their I's.
Lauren's giving y'all permission to just, sit back.
Let's just sit back and relax.
It's going to be good, y'all.
Okay? So what it does make it, Donna said it makes it look more organic. Yeah, it really does, especially if it's coming off. But you can see, because I want certain things like just kind of hanging off the edge, and I'll show you how I iron those down later. If I were to do that, I'm going to have to cut these 2 together, and then I would have to cut this corner together.
Yes.
Then I'd have 4 different cuts, when really, if we just place them where we want them with the different sizes, it's a lot easier. And you can even color code them. Like if I wanted this one, I didn't want this one pink or green, I wanted it pink. Okay, we know that this pink leaf is going to go here. Then I'm going to bring, this little spiky guy here, and I want him a little bigger right around there, and I want him a lighter green. And then this guy will go, bigger turn. I want him hanging off the mat, but I want this to be a hot pink. So we'll go over here to our hot pink. So this is where you can really see what you want to place where. You can keep doing this. We'll duplicate each one of these. And that way when they cut, all of the pink ones are going to cut together. All of the green ones are going to cut together. So I found personally that it was a lot easier doing it this way than trying to go through and manually say, okay, this one and this one, we're looking at 16 by 10. Okay, that one would fit, but what if I had this one down here? I just wanted the top half of it hanging off down here. And then I go to all three and I'm like, nope, it's over 24, but I don't want to resize my leaves. So manually placing with a pattern like this, I found was easier.
I love it.
Now there are some instances where you will have to group things together, but we're not going to worry about that today. We do have a video that you all can go watch where we separate the top and the bottom. It is the snowflake one that you did.
Yes.
Love that one.
That one's really good.
That one's a really good one. If you do want to group it together and have two separate larger pieces, definitely go watch that one. Tanner did it for boot camp, I think about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it would be the winter of 2021.
Yes.
Christmas of 2021.
Yes.
Love it.
Now what we're gonna do, now that I'm not gonna fully design this, but we have an idea of how we want this placed. You all are kind of getting it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to hide the square or my template for my mat because it is larger than anything the Cricut can cut. And now I'm going to go to make it. We do know that we're gonna have to do it on the mat. This can be on a 12 by, the saying is definitely gonna have to be on a 12 by 24 inch mat. And I think I'm gonna have to size it down just a smidgen, probably about right there. Now, on the mat, 12 by 24, perfect. And then I'm just gonna move this down around the middle. That way I have more coverage for the Flex Seal on the top and the bottom. Okay, yeah, more so it doesn't get on there. And now what we're gonna do, we're gonna click continue and we're gonna go overhead and I'm going to show you guys how I like to prepare my mats. So one thing that I do want to say, I know y'all probably think that I'm crazy because I have a strong grip mat out here. Why would I use a strong grip mat with freezer paper? So I don't know if maybe our strong grip mat isn't like super strong. I don't know if we've used it so much that it's not super strong. However, our light grip mat is terrible. It would not keep my freezer paper down. So I had to go with a strong grip mat. Now, you can see I do have the shiny side of this freezer paper facing up right now. I just have it here, that way I can cut it. You can cut with the shiny side facing up. Here's another hack. I don't know what number we're on. But one thing that I did notice, so I tried to do a doormat that my first doormat idea was with the palm leaves, and I wanted it to say, welcome to paradise-ish. And then underneath it, it said, maybe not, but at least we have margaritas. However, another thing that you all need to know is when you are working with these mats, that element, I had way too many, that was way too much text. It was not working great. It's kind of hard to get that many words on a mat and be, I don't know,
it's
like
really,
perfect.
Oh, yeah. I mean, let's just talk about that real quick. So if you notice, on the mat Lauren's working with today, you're going to see that the phrase is short, the font is thick, and that's going to allow you to get the best results. Now, I'll tell you that the idea of using like the leaves are really awesome because guess what? Number one, you don't have to mirror any of it. It doesn't matter either way for the leaves. That's so good. Right. Number two, they're thick, they're chunky, and you're gonna get great cuts and great application. But like Lauren, I mean, she was doing a big quote and was like, wait, there's a lot more room for failure.
Yes.
So Lauren, let's talk about what side does the freezer paper go down if they have to mirror?
Okay, I want you guys to think kind of like HTV. The side that you're going to be putting down on your mat that's going to adhere to your doormat is this shiny side. So let's go to one. One thing that I found, if you do have something with more intricate cuts, or you find that your Cricut is not wanting to cut the duller side, because I did run into that. For some reason, my Cricut kept dragging over the dull side of the freezer paper, and it wasn't cutting it properly. I finally got it to cut properly. I think I had to adjust my pressure settings. However, I did cut it with the shiny side up, and it worked beautifully. You just have to remember to mirror your image. So if you want to just go ahead and cut it as is, the way it comes out of the packaging, shiny side up, that's perfectly fine. You can do that. You just have to always remember to mirror. However, you can take it up off your mat. If you don't want to mirror it, you can put it shiny side down. So that's what we're doing now. We're taking this up off the mat, placing this shiny side down, and that way you don't have to mirror it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to confuse you, but I also want you guys to know that you can cut both ways. Like, it doesn't have to be one way or the other. It's just a matter of mirroring your image.
Love it.
Now, this next step is very important. When you are putting your freezer paper down, you want to make sure that you get all of those air bubbles out of the way. Get it down really, really good, because like I said, your Cricut can snag this material very easily and rip it, and it can get frustrating if you do not get the right cuts.
Right.
Because it is a lot of cutting and figuring out when it fits on the mat. So you just want to make sure that, number one, you have a clean mat so that there's nothing underneath your material that will snag. And then just make sure it's down on your mat very well. Here is where I need you guys to, we're going to talk about cut settings for this material. So if you are on an Explore Series machine, you don't have the option for freezer paper. If you have a Maker or a Maker 3, cut it on the freezer paper setting. You do have the option for freezer paper. We are working with an Explore today, so we're gonna hop back over. As you can see, I've tried to find freezer paper. Cricut does not have freezer paper for the Explore series, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut it on the parchment paper setting. And then once we have chosen parchment paper, we're doing it on default pressure. We're gonna come over here to our Cricut. We're gonna load this in. And then once that is ready, we will cut it. Yay.
Love it.
Okay, I don't know if you all can see this. Please don't make this mistake. This blade is like just barely sitting above here, and it's not even touching my material. Ooh. When you are replacing your blade, make sure it goes all the way down in there and then clamp it back down, because it was not touching.
Wow.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to Design Space. It's still good on parchment paper. We're gonna put this back in. We're gonna try it again.
Love it.
Now I can hear it cutting.
Perfect.
Now it's cutting. So while we're waiting for this to cut, we do have our mini easy press on a heat setting of 3. You do have to use the highest heat setting for this. It always, it just doesn't work if it's not on 3 for me. It has to heat it up because this core is hard to heat up. So you kind of have to go, it's high, but you have to go slow with it. Okay. Now that that has cut, some parts of it, for some reason, didn't cut as well, but it's okay because it's there. But we're just going to come through here, and actually, I think I'm going to come here and weed out the letters first.
Yeah, weighting this can a lot of times be part of the harder parts.
Yeah.
And then placing like the inner pieces for letters can also be not a challenge, but just take a little extra time. So you want to be ready for that. Doormats are one of the biggest returns, I would say, in Cricut, but definitely take a little bit more time.
So I'm just going to be 100% transparent with you guys. I normally use a maker. So I do have that freezer paper setting on there. I don't always use an Explorer unless we are doing a specific project that requires us to use an Explorer. So now that I have cut this on the Explorer that we have here in the studio, I think that I would probably cut it on a more pressure setting than I would the default pressure setting, because it's like it cut it, but it didn't go all the way through in some areas for some reason. And so now what I'm having to do is just come back through here with this true control knife and cut off some of these, like just go through and give it that extra for some of those places that it for some reason did not go all the way through. So I definitely, like I said, I would definitely do this probably with more pressure on that parchment paper if you do have an Explorer series machine. See, this is what some places are perfect and then others just, it ain't it, sis. Okay, we're going to take out this dot of this eye. Okay.
Woohoo!
Shoo. Now what we're going to do, we're going to come through and we are going to pull up our stencil, our freezer paper stencil.
Yay!
So the first time we ever made a stencil with freezer paper for this doormat, I'm just going to be real honest. I thought Tanner and Courtney were crazy. I was like, that is not going to stick to anything. I did not believe it.
Oh, it does.
Y'all, it is so much better. Personally speaking, I think that it is so much easier than using vinyl.
Yeah.
Because I did try to use vinyl, like I said earlier, I did try to use vinyl when the freezer paper was not working, and it was so hard to get it transferred from the, taking it off the backer and then trying to get it onto the core and getting it stuck down like it wasn't staying.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
And you really have to use, I use press and seal instead of regular transfer tape for that. And it was a little easier, but still, oh my gosh, it was so hard. Okay, so once again, mini easy press, heat setting of 3. We are just gonna come in, and I think I'm gonna work from the center out. And one other thing that you all can do before you start putting it down is if you want to take your measuring tape, and I don't know if this is in the shot, if they can see this, but we're just gonna measure from one side of our letters over to the edge. We've got about 3.5, and then from this side, looking at 3.5. So we know we're kind of centered there, and we're just gonna start working our way from the middle portion of this out to the edges. And one thing that you do definitely need to do, I don't move my mini press around a lot. I will hold it down in one spot and then pick it up and move it over. Because I feel like for me, that's just been the best. It gets the best edge on it. Like when you get up here, you know, to the top where there's nothing else that you could really mess up, yeah, there I'm gonna start like moving it up. See what I'm saying? But then when we come over here to our letters, like I don't want to move that around a lot because I don't want to bend the inside of this in or right here next to the eye. So I'm just going to kind of hold it down to keep it in place.
And once you get started with it, it will just kind of go. Like,
yes.
You know, once you get that little bit going, you're there, right? Like it'll be really easy. And I love, let's all just look at this real quick and notice the thick font. Very, very intentional for you to have a thick font that is going to be easy to stencil, have really crisp lines, and it's going to be really, really awesome.
Yes. Elizabeth, never thought freezer paper was an option for stencils. Only option for a core doormat, if you ask me. Yes, so the heat melts the wax or the plastic on the backing of the freezer paper into the bristles, which then keeps it on there, but it's not. So one thing that I want you guys to realize is that it's on there very well, but it's not like you have to still, you can't just like think that it's gonna be moving. You have to be easy with it and not really touch it until you're finished. Does that make sense?
Right.
So we're just gonna start over here with these letters, start up here at the top. Is the shiny side down on the doormat? Yes. Yes, Marina, it is, the shiny side is down. And that's the key with this, is because that shiny side is plastic coated, that's what's going to give you, that's what's going to melt like onto the bristles.
And it's amazing, like when you pull this up, there's little to no, I mean, I would say no, like sticky, like there's nothing, there's nothing.
Yes.
Like when you peel it up, it's flawless.
I have found that working from your middle point out
always
works a lot. It's you have to with these. Otherwise, you're going to end up, if you work from this side over, something's not going to go right. So when you get that middle point down and then work your way out, it's just so much better.
Now, Lauren, I want to ask your opinion because you've now been making them quite a bit. I kind of get crazy with mine, and I want my entire freezer paper to be stuck down. Do you worry about the rest of it?
I'm not.
You're not.
No.
You're focused on like the few inches away,
right?
Like just around. So that saves a lot of time, because if you've watched me do it in the past, I'm like getting the whole thing down, which is a little crazy. But now I'm like, oh, you don't have to do that. Like that's super cool.
Nope, you do not have to do the whole. I don't think that you need to do. You really just need to focus on making sure that your edges are down. That way, it's really nice and crisp. The rest of it, it's just, I don't think it is as important, but if you feel like it needs to be down, I mean, you do it to it.
Whichever, but I like what you're doing over here. This is really smart.
And it does save a lot of time, because as you all can see, like it's taken me a minute to get this down.
This is the time consuming part. Like you'll notice the Cricut cut that super fast.
Yes.
The weeding, not too hard, but being able to peel it up and whatnot is super, super great.
We actually got this mat at Walmart. You can get them at Hobby Lobby. I found that they are cheaper at Walmart though. Now
I will say, I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, I can't find the mats that I want to use and things like that. We don't have too much trouble finding the mats. Like, be sure you're looking in the right place. Like at Hobby Lobby and Michael's, they offer them. At Target, they offer them. Walmart, they offer them. So there's quite a bit of potential for you. So it'll be super, super cool.
Okay, for some reason that end was not wanting to stick down there in the corner. Let's give it one last little bump of heat. Now you can, if you see that there's a spot that's not wanting to stay down, if you have like little pins, you can come in and pin that down if you want to. I don't think this is gonna be that big of an issue. I don't know if y'all can see, like it's not down as well, it's still down well. But the next thing that I'm going to show you guys, and we probably will need to go to one for this one, and I'm going to grab this extra, because I don't want overspray. So I'm just gonna grab this extra and hold it, have it here since it's gonna be so close there to the edge. Make sure you shake up your Flex Seal really well. And the key for this is not coming at it at an angle. Like if I'm standing on this side of the table, I'm not gonna stand back here and spray it this way. You really wanna try your best to spray it from the top down, because if there are like little areas in your stencil that for some reason didn't stick down as well, if you're coming at it at an angle, there's a better chance of that Flex Seal going under it and kind of giving you like a blowout effect. Whereas if you're coming from this top down, there's a lot less of a chance of that happening. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna come in from the top. We're just going to...
Look at that. She's given a little spurt.
Yep. It's a lot easier if you... Yep, small spurts. You're probably gonna have to keep shaking. Then we're just going to move this up here, make sure I don't get any overspray up there. Sorry, I'm not meaning to cover that up if you were still on one. I just want you guys to see.
And look, she's getting close to that edge. Dun, 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 dun.
And now I'm just gonna move this back over here to the side. And you all can see the overspray that I did get on, go overhead. You can see the overspray that I did get. If I would not have covered that top part up, that would have been on my other thing. So, and I actually got some on the side. So I'm going to turn it over so that that Flex Seal does not touch my mat. We're just gonna lay that down here, shake it one more time. Hold this down.
Look at that.
And that is it.
Now, how long are you giving for the Flex Seal to like set in? Like, it's pretty impressive, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, we're gonna pull it up now.
Look at that.
Look at that. You do need to be careful when you pull it up because there may be some excess on your paper that you could possibly drip onto your mat. So be careful with that, but we're just popping that bad boy off and voila!
Whoa.
And honestly, you could be done there.
Yeah.
You really could be done there.
It's amazing.
Like, that's all you have to do. Now, if you wanted to, I would let this sit probably 24 hours and then come back in if you wanted to give it an extra layer of protection and do the Flex Seal clear. You don't have to, though, with the black Flex Seal. It's so awesome. It wears very nicely, so you don't have to. That's just going to be a choice. But now, let's move this bad boy out of the way and let's quickly talk about how we can add color with acrylic paint if you want to. Now, I know we're running a little close to time, and I do want to be very aware of your all's time. So I'm just going to show you how I'm going to do one leaf, and I'm actually going to do it to where it kind of hangs off the corner so that you all can see what I'm talking about by placing these individually. So let me move my mat so you guys can see this.
So Donna asked how long it takes to draw. Donna, it is pretty set, I would say within 10 to 15 minutes in our experience. Lauren, would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I would just do a finger test, like tap your finger on it. As far as drying, you want it to dry to the touch, but you also want to let it cure before you give it to someone or before you take it outside to start using it, okay? So just keep that in mind. Now, I do already have my leaves pre-cut, just so y'all are aware of that. If you are cutting your leaves, like when we place them, you would just cut them based on the color, and then you can do one color at a time. You can go back and reference back to your design in Design Space and see where exactly you put them and iron them down and do them each color at a time. But this is how, what I have found works best when you are wanting to add color and use acrylic paint. So as you can see, I cut out the leaves individually so that it's just the stencil by itself. And now what I'm gonna do, same technique as before, except I'm going to hang this off the edge here so that you all can see how I did that. Let me make sure.
So see how you're not having to worry about all of the, you know, specific placement like she was talking about when we were on Design Space and we had that combo. This is what she's meaning. Like, you can manually place it like the old-fashioned way.
Yes, this is honestly because I did try to do like this bottom half. I did try to do it all one layer, and it was a lot harder bringing it off the mat and doing all of this stuff. Whereas I could just cut them out individually and place them wherever I wanted. One thing that I do want to talk to you about, the acrylic paint is not outdoor paint. We're just using the folk art or the Americana from the small tubes of it from craft stores. And then what we're going to do after that is I'm going to take some Flex Seal and I'm just going to cover this side, or I'm going to you would cover the whole mat. These have dried a few days, so once it cures and dries, then you would come back in with the clear Flex Seal and coat it all so that the whole mat has a really good, like it has coverage on it.
Yeah.
Somebody did ask about shipping. So
yes.
once again, while we are, I'm going to be, let's bring this back in the shot so you guys can see. We're doing this off the corner. Once again, heat setting of 3. One other thing I want to talk to you guys about is the color of your paint. You have to be very conscious of the color of paint that you're using. A lot of times the lighter color paints won't translate as well as a darker color on these doormats, because you have to think of the color wheel. Like, we're already working with a brown base. We're not working with a white base. We're working with a brown base. So what's going to show up best? It's going to be a darker color.
Yes.
So once you have chosen your colors, we have ironed this down. It's here. We've got it hanging off the edge. Do we want to go melon pink or green? Forest green.
Ooh. You ever go wrong with forest green?
Okay, we'll go forest green.
And I also wanted to let y'all know the cardboard tubes are very underrated. So you can get a cardboard tube. Think of it similar to like what you'd put a poster in back in the day. They make them to where you can roll your doormat up and ship it. So if you don't want to, doing the thicker plastic and building your own container can be hard. But if you get in a kick where you're selling a lot of these, Etsy's doing well for you. I've seen a lot of them, and I've received a lot of them in the cardboard tubes. So great idea.
Okay, don't do like I do and open the paint all over your fingers. Now I'm gonna have a green fingernail.
That's so funny.
It's okay. So what we're gonna do, I've shaken my paint up. Yes, this is just the Americana acrylic paint. I'm sure there are all kinds of like other outdoor paints. I saw somebody say something about patio paints. Really and truly, you all can play around and you can choose which one. You can practice with different things, see which one works best for you. This is just what we like to do. Once again, there's not one right or wrong way. There's all kinds of different ways you can do things. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna come in here and I'm actually going to put a pretty generous amount of paint around my stencil, but yet not touching my stencil, okay? So we're gonna have a generous amount of paint. I know y'all are gonna think, oh my gosh, that's so much paint. But to get a really good, crisper line on this, I do like to have a little bit more paint. Another thing that I discovered when doing these, using your sponge brush and having it damp, for some reason for me, worked a little bit better than working with a dry sponge brush. So I have dampened my brush just a little bit, and all I'm gonna do is come in here and from the top, we're gonna tap this down into the doormat, okay?
Lauren is not wasting any time. Traditionally, when I would teach this, I would never put the acrylic paint straight on the mat. So if anyone else is like, wow, that's me right now. Because she said I would do 2 or 3 coats, y'all. If you've ever been here, if you are an old time OG 2018, 2019 viewer of Makers Learn, I would do a live stream like this. Now, granted, we have been live for an hour and almost 20 minutes, but I've done one of these for 2 hours because you need so many coats of the acrylic paint. So Lauren just eliminated all of that. So kudos to Lauren. She is here to win it quickly. Way faster than traditionally for Tanner.
Well, I
love it.
And okay, so this one came up just a little bit. It's okay, we're tapping from the top. So you know what, it ain't that big of a deal. If it comes up, it's all good. We're just gonna keep tapping and tap, tap, tap. And then you can see if you need paint anywhere else, if you want to add any more. We're coming over here in this corner, tapping that a little bit more.
Love that, love it, love it, love it.
And then
now,
y'all,
Lauren, what do you think? Boom, boom.
Look at that.
Now, what do you think about chalk paint? Chalk paint's very thick. Chalk paint, in my opinion, is too, like, it wouldn't seep in at all. Like, chalk paint is very, like...
yeah, I don't...
I would say proceed with caution on chalk paint. I like the idea of it. I don't think it would work long term. So when I tell you that these doormats work, I have had these doormats for many moons, many days, many years, and we love them. You are going to have an amazing experience using this. I would sell this. I believe in this, and it's so good.
It's just a labor of love.
It's a lot longer of a project.
It is a lot longer of a project, so be prepared for that.
Yes.
Once you have finished, if you're adding color, I definitely recommend coating that acrylic paint with the clear Flex Seal. Like I said, that's just gonna give you that extra layer.
Would you do a coat over the entire thing so it's all even?
I would do it over everything.
And
I would take it outside. I would coat the whole mat so that the whole mat stays nice and protected.
Yes.
One other thing that I did discover through this is that a lot of times I was trying to figure out, because there are some people that make some absolutely beautiful full color mats. And I was bound and determined to figure out, how do you do that? How do they make those? I want to know because I want to do it. I think I figured it out. They use an airbrush gun. And that's something
Do we need one?
Well, you know I love doing airbrush makeup. I love working with an airbrush gun personally. But that was also something that I know you all don't have access
How
to
much
necessarily.
Are they?
I don't know about just a regular airbrush gun. I know like a higher quality makeup airbrush gun, you're looking at like $200-300. So I don't know about a regular airbrush gun. You can get like a cheaper compressor, things like that. The compressors are really the biggest thing with those. But it was, I did notice that a lot of people who are doing the full color are using airbrush guns. And I'm pretty sure they're coating them with Flex Seal afterwards as well to seal them. But that's something, if you do have an airbrush gun, you can try it out, test it out.
I love it. That's super fun. I mean, Flex Seal has really opened the door for us to make the best quality things, and it's super fun. If you do the whole mat, do you still use it as a doormat to clean feet? Kathy, yeah. I mean, the doormat is go work. Still, it's go function. It's gonna be stiffer, and actually, it'll last longer. Especially, like, I don't know, at my house, I feel like, at least in East Tennessee, with all the different seasons and the wet, like, doormats only last like 6 months around here. I will say Flex Seal lasts longer than the ones you buy at the craft store, or the ones you buy at like your home improvement and
they really do.
Walmart, Target. The ones that you buy at Target don't last more than like 6 months for me until I'm like, whoa, I gotta get a new doormat. But since having Flex Seal ones, like they're amazing.
Yeah.
I really enjoy them.
There's a lot of people that says they have airbrush guns. Somebody said a $30 one at Harbor Freight.
Let's get it.
I mean,
that'd be fun.
I'll try it. I love working with airbrush guns.
Is it like it's not like a paint sprayer, right?
No, so an airbrush gun, a paint sprayer sprays in one, like this direction, you go across this way. An airbrush gun has more of you can get the different tips and go,
Are we talking about like the ones?
Like where you would airbrush a t-shirt. Yeah, that kind of airbrush gun.
That's cool.
Yes.
I need to try that. I loved getting those on vacation.